The third overall pick has always been interesting because historically at number 3, this is where you might see a drop off in skill and potential. Regardless though, the third overall pick still holds massive potential to be a franchise changing piece. In today's video, we're going to be doing a third overall pick tier list. So as always, comment down below what your tier list would look like and roast me down below if you disagree with my selections. And I'll also be staying with the same tiers as last video, which is Hall of Fame, Superstar, All-Star, Above Average, Meh, which means just average, Massive Letdown, and of course, Bust. So press subscribe for some more awesome content. Let's get straight into this video. Alright, so we'll start with Miriam Gabric. And also, I decided to make some graphics to kind of support it. A quick summary on their points, point per game, and a career award so you guys can get a better, visualization of what they've actually accomplished. So Miriam Gabric, the first franchise player of the Minnesota Wild. And to me, Gabric is an obvious candidate for All-Star. 86 points in his best season with the Rangers, and Gabric was someone who was always borderline superstar, but he never broke out into that 100-point season. But still, he was a tremendous goal scorer who had a great career. All-Star. Alexander Svitov. Bust. First bust of the day, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't think we had a bust on second overall pick tier list, so we'll see today. But Svitov is a player who came from Russia and he just wasn't able to fully adjust. He bounced back and forth in the NHL and AHL and went on to leave to Russia, where he did have a pretty long career. I think he was a captain, but he was definitely a bust at the NHL level. Jay Bouwmeester, J-Bo. And this one may be a bit controversial, but I think Jay Bouwmeester is in the Hall of Fame. And stick with me here. I feel like a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me because he wasn't ever that dominant superstar, but he did have a very long and illustrious career. Let's see here. He's in the Triple Gold Club. He has 5 gold medals, 9 medals in total. He won the Stanley Cup last season, and he's always been a very big piece on every team he's played on. 46 points in his best season offensively, over 1,200 games played, which is a very great achievement in itself because Jay Bouwmeester is someone who is always a great skater, and so he was a big minute eater who averaged like north of 27 minutes per game for long periods of time. I don't think he'll be first ballot, but I do think he'll be in the Hall of Fame because of his international play and his just longevity in the game. Nathan Horton, and this one's a little bit tough, but I will go All-Star. As Horton never really had that really dominant breakout season, but he had many very impressive years, and he was very consistent. 31 goals, 62 points in his best season, and he was a major piece in Boston's Stanley Cup run in 2011. Now, unfortunately, after sustaining multiple concussions, Horton's career would come to an abrupt ending, but he was a great player to watch, and he was just a player you could rely on any single team in any given situation. Cam Barker, bust. And Barker is pretty weird. He had a pretty weird career, as he broke out in 2009 where he put up 40 points in 68 games. However, after that, he would see a massive downfall where he would regress in both ends of the ice. He bounced around several teams where he could never play a full-time game. He left to the KHL, and weirdly enough, today Barker is playing in France. Out of all places, nothing against France. It's just kind of weird to see such a high-caliber player, not playing in a European, or I guess KHL or SHL, but in France, from the NHL to France. Pretty weird. Jack Johnson, and I kind of debated this one, but I'm gonna go above average. I've always been a pretty big fan of Jack Johnson. Recently, he's been kind of trending downwards, but he did have some great seasons, and I think because he was my favorite defensive card in like NHL 16, maybe that has some influence here. But Jack Johnson actually had a pretty volatile career. Some years he was a respectable top 2 defender on his team, and other years he's kind of a defensive liability. 42 points in his best season, and a weird fact here, Jack Johnson filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy even though he just signed a $30 million contract, which is just mind-blowing. And it happened because his mom, I think his parents were managing his money, and they somehow led him into bankruptcy after signing for $30 million. Just mind-blowing. Jonathan Toews, and this one's probably the most obvious on this entire chart, which is Hall of Fame. Pretty obvious to you guys, Triple Gold Club, a Mark Messier Leadership Award, a Conn Smythe, a Selke, 3 Stanley Cups, and is one of the best leaders of the past 2 decades. His best season was during the lockout year, where he put up 48 points in 47 games, and he would also win the Selke. And Toews has gone through some pretty interesting career development the last couple years, but he is hands down a first ballot Hall of Famer. Kyle Terrace. And after a rocky start, Terrace has been seeing a pretty massive downfall in his career, as he was really starting to break out with a career high 64 points in 2015, but ever since then, we have been seeing regression. This year, he has started to turn it back up with 31 points, but he is nowhere near the same player that he was in Ottawa. But that being said, Terrace went about 6 years where he was a really respectable player, and he does have a career .57 point per game average, so I will go above average. Even though the last couple years has been obviously meh, if not massive letdown with his contract. Zach Bogosian, Hall of Fame, easy. Alright, no, I'm just joking. So Zach Bogosian has also had a pretty interesting career, because if you look at some individual seasons from Bogosian, he looked like a pretty good defenseman. However, he was average at best, if not just a massive disappointment. And Bogosian is a serviceable defenseman. He's not a liability out there, but he has next to no offense. And, the past 10 years, he has been below average defensively in his career. And on top of that, his physicality has been going down every season. So to me, Bogosian is a massive letdown. Matt Duchene, All-Star. I've always been a pretty big fan of Matt Duchene, and he always seemed like a player who could hit that 90, if not 100 point season, but he just never got there. Now he does have 5 gold medals, and funny enough, his best season of his entire career was with the Ottawa Senators, where he put up 58 points in 50 games, a .74 career point per game average. And Duchene today is on a disappointing Predators team, but he still may have his best seasons ahead of him. Eric Branson. And to me, Branson is a massive letdown. Branson has had that long career, and again, just like Bogosian, he's been very serviceable. You're able to plug him in a bottom pairing on basically any team, but he has next to no offensive capabilities, and his defensive game hasn't been that great, if not horrendous, and basically all he has is a physical game that has been regressing, so, he's kind of just that enforcer defenseman. Jonathan Huberdeau, and I will go superstar. Huberdeau took a couple extra years to reach his potential, but when he got there, he has developed into a legitimate superstar. 92 points last season. He was on pace for like 120 points at the midpoint of this season, but he kind of fell off, so he was on pace for about 92. He won the Calder, and what makes Huberdeau even more intriguing is that the Panthers, basically for the first time in his career, are on the verge of being a great team, which only bodes well for Huberdeau, as he led the team for years with virtually no support. And that's not even close to an exaggeration. That's a under exaggeration, downplaying. What words am I trying to say here? 1 year, the Panthers' leading point scorer was Nick Bjugstad. And he had 38 points, and he was the leader of the entire team. Huberdeau was injured this year, but that's the type of support he had for years. So it is pretty exciting to see the Florida kind of be on the uprise here. Hopefully Bobrovsky can turn it up, because that's a pretty bad contract. If so, Huberdeau will be a guy, in my opinion, that will have multiple 100-point seasons. Alex Galchenyuk. And Galchenyuk was a pretty massive wildcard, as he actually only played 2 games in his entire draft year, which is pretty crazy. And Galchenyuk came out of the gate pretty strong. He posted 30 goals in 2016, and with that, I personally thought Galchenyuk would be a consistent 30, if not 40 goal scorer in his career, as he had a great offensive toolset and was showing constant positive progression. However, the past 3 years we've been seeing regression, with this season being the worst in his entire career, as he only put up 17 points in 45 games with the Penguins. And with that, he got traded to the Wild, so hopefully he can turn his career around. But to me, I can understand, but again, he still has the toolset here, and I will go above average, if not all-star. If Galchenyuk can turn back into that 30-goal scorer, I could honestly see all-star. 2013, we had Jonathan Drouin. And Drouin is the definition of a tease, because he had all the skill in the world. He has the toolset to be a star caliber player, but he always just comes up short. 53 points in his best season, and Drouin has what it takes to be an all-star, if not superstar one day. However, he just hasn't gone there. 209 points in 349 career games. And so far, I think Drouin is a candidate for above average, but again, I think he can get to the next level. We'll see. In 2014, we had Leon Draisaitl, and to me, it's pretty obvious, which is Hall of Fame, as Draisaitl has emerged this season as a top 5, if not top 3 player in the entire NHL, And he's proving a lot of people wrong who are just saying he's getting carried by, Connor McDavid. It's not real. His points aren't real. Well, they are real this season, and he definitely proved it, especially when he didn't play with McDavid. And he produced even better without McDavid, so I don't really know how you're going to critique Draisaitl anymore. 110 points in only 71 games this season, meaning he was on pace for approximately 127 points, which is just insane. He won the Ross this season, and I guarantee you he will also come home with more hardware. And if the Oilers are able to fill the roster, the young guys are able to come in and provide that depth scoring that they need, the Edmonton Oilers are going to be a scary team with Draisaitl and Connor McDavid leading the charge. There's just no question, especially if they're going to be able to produce more and more every season, which is what we've been seeing the past 3-4 years. Dylan Strohm. And Strom's career has honestly been pretty odd. Drafted in the most stacked draft in the modern NHL era, Strohm has been pretty disappointing compared to his draft class, as he struggled to make the Coyotes lineup, and when he finally did, he just didn't look ready, as he put up 15 points in 41 games and displayed some very suspect skating. However, after being involved in a blockbuster trade that sent him to Chicago for Nick Schmaltz, Strohm has definitely bounced back. He put up an extremely impressive 51 points in 58 games last season. He saw some regression this year with only 38 points, but he's still heading into the right direction. I think the future is still uncertain on the type of player Strohm will become, and Strohm has been reportedly shopped around, but to me, above average is an obvious candidate. Pierre Dubois. Kind of a draft day surprise, as many people had Jesse Puljujarvi pegged for number 3, if not Matthew Tkachuk. However, Columbus will jump on Dubois and make the best possible decision, as Dubois has developed into a franchise centerman for the Blue Jackets, 27 goals, 61 points last season, in a very impressive defensive game. And for the time being, I would put Dubois in All-Star. However, I do think he definitely has what it takes to get into Superstar. Miro Heiskanen. And Heiskanen, in my opinion, is constantly overlooked, as Heiskanen is a stud and is a potential Norris caliber defenseman. We hear a lot about Dahlin, Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, even Adam Fox, but just not Heiskanen. And honestly, I just don't get it. He put up 33 points last season, and this year he was on pace for 42, on top of playing a great defensive game. And Heiskanen to me has superstar upside, but for the time being, I will go All-Star. I honestly think that Heiskanen will win a Norris one day. We'll see, and it's going to be great to see him develop here. I'm a big fan of Heiskanen. And lastly, we have Yaspiri Kotkaniemi. And Kotkaniemi has always been a pretty polarizing player. Ever since he was drafted, as many scouts had him in the 15 range, 10 to 15, but leading up to the draft, Mark Bergevin would show his hand by stating he would select him at number 3. A pretty odd decision, pretty odd strategy to announce who you're selecting before the draft, but I regress. But Kotkaniemi would come in and prove a lot of haters wrong, as he had a great rookie season where he put up 34 points and showed flashes of an elite two-way game. However, this season has not gone as planned, as Yaspiri really struggled at the NHL level and was sent down to the AHL. Now with that being said, Kotkaniemi just turned 20, and he has a very positive future, and I understand why some people would want to put him in meh. It seems a bit obvious that he got sent down to the AHL this year, but he's only 20, and I see him as a potential star player here, so I will go above average. I'll kind of meet in the middle. In my opinion at least, and take it for what it's worth, I honestly think that Kotkaniemi should have spent one more year in Finland, and then this year when he would have finally arrived, he would have been ready. But whatever, it's what's done is done, and he's still going to be a great player. But anyways guys, there is my third overall pick tier list. Roast me down below what you think I'm wrong for. I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments. I get some pretty hilarious comments of people just furious at me. Just furious that I dare to put their player lower than they expected. And that's fine guys. Obviously this is just my opinion. You guys can have your opinion. So let me know down below what your third overall pick tier list would look like. And looking at this distribution, it's pretty interesting. I feel like we're kind of heavy on the above average, which is pretty new. We have 2 busts, which is also new. I think that's all-time high here. And we have more Hall of Famers than the second overall pick tier list, which is very interesting. But on average, it seems like you get a pretty good player, but you're more likely to get an above average player than anything else. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.